The Budget Speech is proudly brought to you by Chartered Accountants South Africa. A CASA can help your business take off and rise above your tax headache. Find a CASA tax advisor in your area. Go to findacasa.co.za.
A sound budget framework is one of the enabling conditions for implementation of the National Development Plan. Fellow South Africans, it has now been 8 years since the global financial crisis began. In responding to low economic growth, government allowed for continued expenditure growth and a wider budget deficit to cushion the economy from a potential hard landing, which would have resulted in an increased debt burden, on the state. Fiscal room created during the economic boom leading up to the financial crisis cushioned us against tax increases as a first response. Our fiscal rebalancing has included cost containment measures and intensified efforts to improve efficiency and expenditure. These measures are yielding positive results already. However, growth performance remains weak and substantial repayments of debt are becoming due. It is now clear that we can no longer postpone consideration of additional revenue measures. In choosing among our tax options, the financial health of households and businesses is a primary consideration. As indicated in the medium-term budget policy statement, the key features of the budget framework for the period ahead are as follows. I repeat them, honorable members, as we said in the MTBPS. The first is that a reduction in the main budget expenditure ceiling of about 25 billion rands over the next 2 years, compared with the 2014 budget baseline, was a necessity. The second was an increase in taxes amounting to 17 billion rands in 2015-16. The third was revised spending plans across the whole of government aimed at greater efficiency, reduced waste, and an improved composition of spending. Fourth was a consolidation of government personnel numbers, and lastly, financing of state-owned companies where required without raising national government's budget deficit. In the budget framework we tabled today, a consolidated deficit of 3.9% of GDP is projected for 2015-16, falling to 2.5% in 2017-18. Consolidated non-interest expenditure will rise from 1.1 trillion rands this year to 1.4 trillion in 2017-18, which is an average real increase of 2.1% a year. The share of personnel compensation is projected to remain at around 40% of non-interest spending. Interest on state debt will rise from 115 billion rands this year to 153 billion rands in 2017-18. Reductions in budget allocations have been targeted at non-critical activities. Cost containment and reprioritization measures will limit growth in allocations for goods and services to 5% a year. Spending on catering, entertainment, and venues is budgeted to decline by 8% a year. Travel and subsistence will be cut back by 4% a year in real terms. Compliance will be reported From now on, compliance will be reported by the Auditor General in his audit outcomes. Allocations for critical items such as school books and medicine for police vehicles and medicines, and for police vehicles, fuels, and for maintenance of infrastructure will grow faster than inflation. The budget framework includes an unallocated contingency reserve of 5 billion rands next year, 15 billion rands in 2016-17, and 45 billion rands in 2017-18. This could allow for new spending priorities to be accommodated in future budgets. It takes into account that the economic outlook is uncertain and that both weaker growth and rising interest rates are possible over the period ahead. We are also mindful that public service salary negotiations have still to be concluded. We hope that agreement will be reached in time for salary improvements to be implemented in April. Over the next 3 years, the total amount of money owed by government is projected to increase by about 550 billion rands to 2.3 trillion rands by 2017-18. Redemptions on debt issued over the past decade will add 190 billion rands to the medium-term borrowing requirement. Net loan debt of the national government is expected to stabilize at less than 45% of GDP in 3 years' time. South Africa's liquid capital markets and our standing in international markets enable us to meet this borrowing requirement. So there is no problem about debt sustainability, all things being equal. But we are mindful that debt sustainability requires a prudent budget framework and improvements in both saving and investment. Therefore, our fiscal policy stance recognizes that state-owned companies and municipalities will continue to face substantial investment requirements over the period ahead. Moderation in the main budget deficit creates space in the wide capital market for infrastructure financing of both wider public sector and the private sector. In addressing these and other fiscal challenges, government is firmly resolved to steer a responsible and sustainable course. Honorable Speaker, our Constitution requires an equitable division of nationally collected revenue between national, provincial, and local government. This is set out in the Division of Revenue Bill and its accompanying explanatory memorandum. The allocations are explained in the budget review and elaborated in the estimates of national expenditure, which I implore members to pay much attention to. In preparing these proposals, we have benefited from recommendations of the Financial and Fiscal Commission and Parliament's committees. As is required by the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act of 2009, the budget review includes a report which responds to concerns raised by the Finance and Appropriation Committees and in Portfolio Committee's budgetary review and recommendations reports. We greatly appreciate these contributions of Parliament to the rigor and integrity of our budget process. The national share of non-interest expenditure is about 48%, with provinces receiving 43% and municipalities receiving 9%. Allocations to basic services provided by municipalities have been prioritized, despite the constraints of the framework, of the budget framework. A new approach is proposed to cities to support their growth and restructuring and strengthen infrastructure investment, and a review of local government infrastructure grants is in progress, which will lead to simplification and consolidation of the financing arrangements. Over the longer term, progress in municipalities requires local economic growth, property development, and revenue capacity alongside national support. These are key elements in the Back to Basics municipal development strategy championed by Minister Gordon, my predecessor. Honorable members, our support through the budget for economic development is wide-ranging, as it must be if we are to diversify our growth and broaden participation. Innovation and technology changes are at the heart of this development strategy. Support for the oceans economy has been allocated 296 million rands over the next 3 years. This will enhance our climate change research and management of ocean resources. South African science and technology also continues to benefit from our leading role in the Square Kilometre Array Astronomy Partnership, which will spend approximately 2.1 billion rands over the next 3 years. Minister Pandor here is guiding our science councils towards more effective partnerships with industry and academic institutions. 2.7 billion rands has been allocated over the medium term under the Mineral Policy and Promotion Program to promote investment in mining and petroleum beneficiation projects. 108 million rands has been allocated to research and regulatory requirements for licensing shale gas exploration and hydraulic fracturing. Government will continue to strengthen support for agricultural development and trade under Minister Sukwana. The projected conditional allocation to provinces over the medium term is 7 billion rands. Access to finance by emerging farmers will be expanded in collaboration with the Land Bank. Since the inception of the Recapitalization and Development Program in 2008, 1,459 farms have been supported, and 4.3 million hectares has been acquired for redistribution. A further 1.2 million hectares will be acquired over the next 3 years, and 4.7 billion rands is allocated for recapitalization and development of farms. Establishment of the Office of the Valuer General under Minister Nkwinti's department will assist the orderly implementation of land acquisition and redistribution activities.